So, when I say the phrase, the end of the world, what pops into your head? Probably fire, chaos, the whole apocalypse movie thing. It's a pretty intense image, right? But what if I told you there's another, much older vision of the future, one that's not about destruction at all, but about perfection? Today, we're diving into Judaism's incredibly hopeful idea of the Messianic Age.
Okay, so right off the bat, we've got to draw a massive line in the sand. On one side, you have that popular, blockbuster idea of an apocalypse, everything ending in a fiery crash, but on the other side, Jewish tradition paints a totally different picture. Their end of days isn't an ending. It's a transition, a total reboot, a new beginning that's all about redemption and, believe it or not, universal peace. So yeah, let's start by just throwing out our old definitions. This is not a story about doom and gloom. It's a really optimistic vision of what humanity and the world are actually meant to become. The key phrase you need to know is Aharit Hayamim. It's a Hebrew term you'll find all over the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. And while it literally translates to the end of days, it doesn't mean the end of time. Think of it more like the end of the world as we know it, the end of our current era of conflict and suffering, and the start of something totally new, an age of global harmony and divine connection. So how do we get there? I mean, is it just a wish? Nope. Jewish thought actually lays out a pretty clear process, a series of huge, transformative events that are going to bring about this perfected world. Let's take a look at the actual blueprint for this new era. What's so cool about this is that it's not just one big event, it's a roadmap. You can basically break down this whole transition into 4 major stages. First, a restoration for the Jewish people. Then the arrival of a world-changing leader, followed by a literal resurrection, and finally, a renewal of creation itself. The whole process kicks off with a kind of homecoming, both physical and spiritual. This is the idea of the ingathering of the exiles. You have the Jewish people who've been scattered all over the world for centuries, finally returning to the land of Israel. And along with that comes the rebuilding of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, which acts as a central hub for that spiritual connection. Okay, next up is the Messiah. And this is a really important distinction. In Jewish tradition, the Messiah isn't a god or some divine being. He's a human leader, a direct descendant of King David. The focus here is on real-world leadership and teaching. This is a person, a brilliant teacher and a gifted political leader who inspires all of humanity to build a world of justice and peace we can't even imagine today. And while the Messiah is leading the way, these other absolutely massive foundational changes are happening. All people on earth will come to recognize one God. And then you get 2 of the most mind-bending events you can think of. The righteous who have died will be brought back to life, and God will perform an act of recreation, giving us a brand new heaven and a new earth. So, we've talked about the journey to get there. But what about the destination? I mean, what does this perfected world actually look and feel like? This is probably the most famous snapshot we have of that era, and it comes from the prophet Isaiah. Just try to picture that for a second, a world where we take the very tools of war and literally reshape them into tools for farming and growth. A world where conflict is so far in the past that we actually forget how to fight. It's the end of war, period. And the great medieval scholar Maimonides takes that vision even further. He describes a world without any of the struggles that basically define our lives. No more hunger, no more war, and get this, no more jealousy or rivalry. Things will be so abundant, so plentiful, that human competition just stops. It has no reason to exist anymore. So if we're not competing for resources or fighting or trying to one-up each other, what do we do all day? Well, Maimonides gives this incredibly profound answer. Once survival isn't our main concern, humanity will be free to pursue its highest purpose. Our one and only occupation, the thing we all pour our energy into, will be the pursuit of knowing God, of understanding the universe. All right, so you're probably wondering, when is all this supposed to happen? While a lot of thinkers say it's impossible to know, there's a really fascinating mystical tradition in Judaism that actually offers up a cosmic timeline. This idea, which comes from Jewish mysticism, is called the cosmic week. The logic is pretty poetic. Just like God created the world in 7 days, the world's history is set to unfold over 7,000 years. The first 6,000 years are our history of work, struggle, and building. And that 7th millennium, that's the Messianic Age. And here's the map. You can see it laid out. The 7th day of the week is Shabbat, the day of rest. So, following that pattern, the 7th millennium of history is seen as a kind of cosmic Shabbat, a universal 1,000-year-long era of peace, rest, and divine connection for the entire planet. Now, according to this mystical clock, there's actually a deadline. The Messiah could always arrive earlier if humanity earns it, but the absolute latest the Messianic Age must begin is the year 6000 on the Hebrew calendar. That's the final moment to kick off that cosmic Shabbat. Okay, so as we start to wrap this up, let's just pull the camera back for a second and think about the big picture. What's the ultimate point of all this? What's the real takeaway here? It all boils down to this. Aharit Hayamim is, at its core, a story of hope. It completely reframes the end not as some terrifying final chapter, but as the purposeful, incredible goal that all of human history has been moving towards, a transition into a world that's finally perfected. And that's what I want to leave you with. Just for a second, forget everything you know about conflict and scarcity and just imagine. What would our world actually look like? What would our lives be like if all human rivalry just vanished and the quest for knowledge became as natural and as common as the water that covers the sea?